So here's what's going on. California held its jungle primary last week, and what a circus it turned out to be. Steve Hilton jumps out early, looks like a clear frontrunner, and then the mail-in ballots start rolling in. Javier Becerra catches him. Now Hilton is scrapping with Tom Steyer for that second slot in November.
According to CalMatters and CNN's results coverage, Becerra and Hilton are still neck and neck with millions of ballots left to count. Nothing is settled.
Nothing is settled. And you know what nobody wants to say? The reason this looks suspicious to people is partly a problem the Republican Party built for itself. Years of telling your own voters that mail-in ballots are rigged. Guess what? Your voters didn't mail their ballots in.
That's the structural story, and it's the one worth actually examining.
We'll get into that. But first, Trump. He goes on Truth Social, no evidence, calls the whole thing stolen. Then his own pick, Hilton, tells CNN he hasn't seen anything illegal.
That's a notable gap.
Notable gap. That's one way to put it. And U.S. Attorney Bill A. Solly announces investigations, plural, with exactly zero specifics. We'll dig into what that actually means.
There's also a satire segment today that I'll just say involves both the Cal AG and federal monitors showing up at the same ballot center.
For a public tour, available to any citizen.
Rush, we need to talk about the MEGA Act, too. House Republicans have a sweeping election reform bill. Whether it's real policy or positioning for November is a separate question.
That's exactly right. Big show today. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, a quick reminder. We love hearing from you. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, head to the link in the description and submit your question. We read every single one. So here's what happened on election night, June 2nd, in California. Steve Hilton, standing in Huntington Beach, crowd going absolutely wild, looks into the camera and says, "Change is coming to California."
Wow.
Full-on celebration. People are fired up.
Early returns were genuinely looking good for him.
Looking good? Reagan. According to the Washington Post, when only about 17% of ballots were counted, Hilton was sitting at 29%. Becerra was back at 26%, Steyer trailing at 20%. First place. On election night, the Republican was in first place in California.
Which, for a Republican in California, is basically a miracle in the first 3 hours.
It's a miracle. It's a sign. People are ordering the commemorative plates. And then...
the mail ballot showed up.
The mail ballot showed up. Over the next several days, as those ballots rolled in, Becerra overtook him. Decision Desk HQ called it. Becerra advances to November. Hilton is now fighting for second.
Now here's the structural reality people need to understand. California runs a jungle primary. Top two finishers, regardless of party, go to the general. So the question isn't just who won.
Right.
It's who grabbed that second spot. Because if Hilton holds second, Republicans are on the ballot in November. If Steyer claws past him, you get a Democrat versus Democrat general in the biggest state in the country.
And that second spot is still genuinely competitive. Hilton is ahead of Steyer, but mail ballots have not been friendly to him this week.
The gap has been narrowing as counting continues.
So you had a guy on a stage, confetti in the air, telling thousands of people he'd be their next governor. By Thursday morning, the story had completely flipped. Now, who do you think is screaming the loudest that something crooked happened? So, here's what happened next. Trump gets on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker, and she asks him point blank, "What's your evidence the California count is rigged?" Deadpan. His answer, "All I have to do is look. I listen to people."
That's the evidence. Looking.
Looking. He then called Welker crooked and stupid and walked out of the interview. Walked out. This is the part where the President of the United States pretends the counting is suspicious because his guys were losing ground.
Okay, but Rush, step back for a second. What exactly is suspicious about ballots arriving after election night in California?
Nothing. That's the whole move.
Right. According to Time, over 80% of California voters cast ballots by mail. Ballots postmarked by Election Day are valid for up to a week afterward. California officials said before election night this was coming. Secretary of State Shirley Weber called the slow count, quote, normal.
But wait, it gets better. Trump's own appointee, U.S. Attorney Bill Esili in Los Angeles, announces multiple election fraud investigations and sends a prosecutor to the county's ballot counting center.
Wow.
No specifics, zero, just the announcement.
Pointedly, ABC7 reported Esili gave no information on targets, locations, or scope, and Hilton himself, Trump's own candidate, said his team, quote, certainly haven't seen anything that would warrant a fraud claim.
Hilton said that. The guy whose lead was evaporating said he hadn't seen fraud, his own candidate.
Here's where I push back on the whole framing. You want to know why Republicans had a big election night lead that vanished over days? There's a structural reason for that.
Oh, this is the interesting part.
Republicans vote in person. Democrats vote by mail. That gap didn't appear from nowhere. Someone spent years telling Republican voters that mail-in ballots can't be trusted.
Someone. Specific someone.
And that's exactly where this story gets uncomfortable for the people currently screaming fraud.
So here's the thing nobody in the Republican Party wants to say out loud. They built this problem themselves.
Right, and I want to be precise about what the problem actually is. The red mirage, where Republicans lead on election night, then fade as mail ballots count, that's not mysterious. Time magazine covered it this week. Democrats vote by mail more than Republicans. Mail ballots count slower. The math follows.
And you know what? I almost feel bad saying this. Almost. Because who spent years telling Republican voters that mail ballots were fraudulent? Who made "Don't mail your ballot" practically a campaign slogan?
The same people now screaming fraud. Look, the Save America Act passed the House in February. The Mega Act would ban universal mail voting outright. That's the policy response to a problem Republicans created by suppressing their own mail ballot participation.
They talked their voters out of using a legal voting method, then watched Democrats use that method, then called it a conspiracy.
And here's where I push back on the simple version of this. Trump's anti-mail messaging genuinely suppressed Republican mail ballot use. That's documented. But Republicans nationally have been trying to course-correct on this since 2022. The problem is Trump won't let them.
Time covered this too. After the 2022 midterms, GOP leaders tried to embrace mail voting. Trump pushed back. So now you've got the party running straight into the wall they built.
And the Brookings Institution found mail-in ballot fraud accounts for about 0.000043% of all mail ballots cast, 4 out of every 10 million.
Massive conspiracy. Huge.
Staggering.
So, the red mirage in California isn't fraud. It's the natural consequence of one party using a legal tool and the other party telling their voters to throw that tool in a ditch.
And now they want to legislate the tool out of existence instead of telling their voters to use it.
Now, here's the part that gets genuinely absurd. California AG Rob Bonta sent his own monitor to the LA County Ballot Processing Center, specifically because the Trump DOJ sent a federal prosecutor there first. 2 legal teams, 1 ballot counting room.
I need a moment.
We all do. That's next. So picture this. Friday afternoon, Los Angeles County Ballot Processing Center. Federal prosecutor walks in, sent by Bill Esali's office. And according to MS Now's reporting, the county registrar confirmed he got the public observation tour, the one available to literally anyone.
Any member of the public.
Any member of the public. Now, here's where it gets good. California AG Rob Bonta hears about the DOJ visit and sends his own monitor to the same room.
2 squads of lawyers watching people count ballots.
That's it. That's the whole bit. You've got the Department of Justice, federal resources, official capacity, and they're on the public tour with the rest of the field trip.
In fairness, Bonta was pretty clear about why he sent someone. He told MS Now his office wanted to be present to ensure, quote, nothing crazy is going on.
Nothing crazy is going on.
Yeah.
The federal government dispatched a prosecutor to a ballot setter to watch the public tour, so the state dispatched a monitor to watch the prosecutor watch the tour. This is your government at full capacity.
Look, the absurdity is real, but the underlying point is worth a beat. The DOJ deployed federal resources to monitor a primary election with zero identified fraud. That's not a punchline. That's actually a serious use of federal power.
Right. You know what nobody wants to say? The fraud investigation opened without a single specific allegation. Bonta put it plainly. No details, no specifics, nothing individualized. Yet, here we are, two legal teams in the same room watching people sort paper.
Democracy in action.
Beautiful. Okay, but jokes aside, someone actually has to win this thing in November, and that conversation is a different level of serious. Two candidates, one state, and a math problem that does not obviously favor one of them. So now we know who's on the November ballot, Becerra and Hilton. Let's talk about what that actually means.
And it starts with Becerra because you can't ignore the historical weight here. According to Fox News, if he wins in November, he'd be California's first Latino governor since 1875, in a state where over 40% of the population is Latino. That's not a footnote.
That's a real structural advantage. Becerra leads with Latino voters, he brings name recognition from Biden's HHS, and he ran the California AG's office. He's not a fringe candidate.
Right, and here's where I push back on the easy Republican optimism. Democrats outnumber Republicans by millions of registered voters in California, a state that has not elected a Republican governor since Arnold Schwarzenegger left office in 2011.
Schwarzenegger, the last Republican governor of California, is literally the Terminator. That's the bar.
So the bar is a movie star with a catchphrase?
And here's the thing. Hilton has a real message. His Cal-affordable platform, $3 gas, cut electric bills in half, zero income tax on your first $100,000, that hits something genuine. California's cost of living frustration is real and it is broad.
I actually think it's the strongest Republican economic pitch California has seen in years. But the mechanism matters, Rush. His tax plan would cut $60 to $65 billion in state revenue by his own campaign's numbers. Democrats in Sacramento hold a supermajority. The math of winning is hard. The math of governing is harder.
Okay, fair. But here's what I'd say. Even a loss at, 45% in California, that's not nothing. That's a signal. That's a party rebuilding something.
That's a legitimate argument. The question is whether Republicans can actually turn cost of living frustration into votes from people who don't usually vote Republican. That's the path. It's narrow, but it exists.
And that question, whether Washington gives California Republicans any tools to work with, that's where things get very interesting, very fast.
So Washington gives Republicans a tool, the MEGA Act. Mail ballots received by Election Day, no universal mail-in voting, no ballot harvesting. Chairman Steil unveiled it in January. Reagan, you've been pretty straight on this one.
There's a real policy question buried in there. Uniform ballot receipt deadlines, that's a legitimate structural argument. 14 states currently accept mail ballots after Election Day, as long as they're postmarked on time. A national standard isn't inherently crazy.
And here's the thing. Trump wants Congress to pass this before he signs anything else. That's the leverage. So is this real policy, or is it election season theater?
Debatably, honestly. I get why people want uniform rules, but VoteBeat put it plainly. The bill almost certainly fails in the Senate. Republicans control 53 seats. They need 60 to beat the filibuster. The math isn't there.
Shocking. A Republican priority bill stalls in a Republican Senate.
And here's where I push back on my own side a little bit. You can't spend years telling voters mail ballots are fraudulent and then turn around and legislate mail ballots more carefully. Pick a lane.
That is the lane. That is the lane. The lane is fraud when we lose, reform when we need votes.
Which is not exactly a governing philosophy.
So let's say the MEGA Act dies in the Senate. What does that actually mean for California Republicans in November?
It means no cavalry is coming.
Right.
No law changes the rules before November. If Hilton advances, he's running under the same ballot counting system that just produced this controversy. Same timelines, same mail ballot volumes.
You know what nobody wants to say? Republicans either figure out how to compete in that system or they don't. A bill they can't pass isn't a strategy.
That's the straight answer the fraud noise keeps drowning out.
So here's the thing the California count drama is actually previewing. Come November, if any House race is close, we go through this exact fight again. And Republicans are walking in with the same playbook. Call it rigged, file lawsuits, yell at ballot counters.
And the historical headwinds are already brutal before any of that. In 18 of 20 midterms since 1946, the president's party lost House seats. The GOP's majority right now is razor thin. 5 seats flip and they lose the chamber.
5. That's it. 5 seats.
So the margin for error is basically 0. Every competitive district matters, which means every mail ballot in every close race matters.
And here's what gets me. You cannot spend years telling your own voters that mail ballots are corrupt, watch them sit out mail voting, and then when the count goes sideways, call it a conspiracy. That is not a strategy. That is a self-fulfilling prophecy with a press release attached.
The California count controversy is the preview tape. Slow returns, Republican candidate leading early, lead evaporates as mail ballots arrive. We've now seen that movie.
Right.
If November produces 3 or 4 races that look exactly like this, and Republicans have no answer beyond it's rigged, they hand the House back, and they handed it back themselves.
They can complain about the system, they can try to reform the system, but doing both while actively convincing their own voters not to use the system, that's not a two-front war. That's friendly fire.
The Republicans who figure out mail voting before November are the ones who'll still have a majority in January. The ones who don't will be on television explaining again why close races keep slipping away in the final days of counting.
We all know what's really happening here. The choice is simple. Compete or complain. You don't get to do both and win.
All right, here's what we covered today. Steve Hilton popping champagne in Huntington Beach on election night, and by Thursday morning, the whole story had flipped. That's your red mirage, live in real time.
And the structural reason behind that flip is the part that should keep Republicans up at night. When your own voters don't use mail ballots, don't expect to be surprised when mail ballots come in against you.
That's the whole show right there. One sentence.
The GOP helped build the problem they're now asking Congress to fix.
And Trump walking out of that Meet the Press interview after, all I have to do is look, I listen to people. That's a whole separate episode.
We may need it.
If you got something out of today, subscribe, drop us a 5-star review, and send this to one person who needs to hear it. New episodes every weekday.
Thanks for spending the hour with us.
I'm Rush Lindell. She's Reagan. We'll see you tomorrow.